Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into a really, really impactful guide. When Your Soulmate Dies, a guide to healing through heroic mourning.
It's a heavy topic, but such an important one.
Absolutely. And, right off the bat, what struck me is how this book, this source, it broadens our whole idea of what a soulmate even is.
Right, it's not necessarily just the romantic partner, the spouse.
Exactly. The source describes the grief from losing a soulmate as uh, something much more profound, more pervasive. It says it's like the death of a twin.
Or the severing of a timeless relationship. That's powerful language.
It really is. And the book defines a soulmate based on, let me get this right, the strength and qualities of the bond in the relationship as experienced from inside it.
So it's subjective in a way. It's about that internal feeling, that deep connection.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could be your parent, your child, a sibling, maybe even a really close friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating, isn't it, looking back? Plato, way back in like 380 BC in the Symposium, he talked about humans being split, looking for their other halves.
That idea has been around for ages.
And then much later, 1822, the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge actually coins the term soulmate.
Ah, okay, so that's where the word itself comes from.
Apparently so. And the guide gives these examples like Sharon Trianocott, her soulmate was her best friend Barbara,
Right.
or Penny Blage, whose soulmate was her daughter Catherine Ann. It really opens up the definition.
It does. It moves beyond that potentially restrictive romantic box we often put it in.
And there's another layer too, these secret soulmate relationships. Maybe relationships others didn't know the depth of.
Which can lead to what the guide calls disenfranchised grief.
Disenfranchised grief, meaning
Meaning grief that isn't really acknowledged or supported by society. Maybe the relationship wasn't official or understood, so the loss isn't seen as significant by others.
okay. That makes the sorrow even harder to bear, I imagine.
Unsupported.
Definitely more complex, yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings us to grief itself, which the guide is really clear about. Yeah.
It makes this important distinction between grief, which is all the internal stuff, the thoughts, the feelings, sadness, anger, shock, confusion, all of that.
Right, what's happening inside.
Exactly. And mourning, which is the external expression of those feelings. It's what happens when you actually let that grief out, when you share it, when you act on it.
Got it. Internal grief, external mourning.
And when we're talking about losing a soulmate, the guide stresses that this grief is inherently complicated, just because the attachment is so incredibly intense.
Complicated seems like an understatement based on what you said earlier.
Well, yeah, the book doesn't mince words. It calls it a grave psychic injury
Wow.
and says it requires the emotional and spiritual equivalent of the ICU.
The ICU. Emotionally and spiritually. That paints a very stark picture of the severity.
It really does. It highlights that this isn't just deep sadness. It's a fundamental wound that needs, intensive care and a specific kind of healing process.
That is incredibly strong language. Grave psychic injury. It really makes you stop and think. So given that level of loss, that depth, what path does the guide propose for healing something so fundamental? What exactly is this heroic mourning it talks about?
That's the core of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, is it about fighting grief or embracing it somehow? What does that look like? This deep dive, our mission here is really to explore how this guide suggests you can heal from that kind of, legendary grief through this process it calls heroic mourning.
And offer you some shortcuts to understanding that depth and the path forward.
Exactly. With hopefully some surprising facts and practical insights along the way.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so as we start to, bring this deep dive toward a close, we've really walked through the extraordinary nature of soulmate grief and this powerful idea the guide presents, heroic mourning. And the main takeaway, it seems, the core message we've uncovered, isn't about trying to, get over the grief, is it?
No, not at all. The goal isn't erasure or forgetting. It's described as reaching reconciliation.
Reconciliation. Okay,
Wow.
what does that mean in this context?
It means integrating this new reality, the reality of the loss, into your life, finding a way to live with it, to find a new normal.
A new normal where life can still have meaning and purpose.
Exactly, where you can live fully again, even with the reality of the loss. It's about finding a future that feels whole, not just, a pale imitation of what you had before.
That makes sense. Not getting over it, but integrating it.
And if we look at the bigger picture here, this heroic mourning process, as the source lays it out, is definitely a long-term thing. It's described as an arduous quest.
A quest. That implies difficulty, challenge, but also maybe a purpose.
Precisely. But here's what I find truly groundbreaking, sort of a radical idea in the source. The very qualities you developed in that soulmate relationship.
Like what?
Well, maybe fierce loyalty or deep empathy, maybe perseverance, even a sense of adventure you shared. Those things aren't lost with the person. Instead, the guide suggests they become the actual tools, the skills you need to navigate this, well, this wilderness of grief.
Wow, so the relationship itself equips you for the mourning.
That's the idea. It's a powerful reframing, isn't it? Loss becoming a source of strength, in a way, a forge for new resilience.
That is a different way to look at it.
And the guide talks about tangible signs of reconciliation, things you might start to notice.
Like what kind of signs?
Things like a renewed sense of energy, maybe feeling less drained all the time, the capacity to actually enjoy experiences again, maybe things you used to love.
Okay.
And importantly, the ability to establish new, healthy relationships. Not replacements, obviously, but new connections.
Right, moving forward without leaving the memory behind.
Exactly. And it's crucial the guide acknowledges that the pain of the loss, it will likely soften over time, but it will never completely disappear.
So it becomes part of your story, part of who you are.
Yes, integrated. Something you carry, but it doesn't have to dominate everything. It's not something you just, leave behind or move past entirely.
That feels more realistic somehow.
I think so too. And this leads to a really important question, sort of the ultimate point. What's the final outcome of this heroic journey, this quest?
Right, where does it lead?
Well, the source uses some really evocative language here. It talks about relighting your divine spark.
Your divine spark.
Yeah, and it states quite directly that immersing yourself in and surrendering to death, grief, and mourning is what gives you new life.
Surrendering to it gives new life. That sounds paradoxical.
It does, doesn't it? But consider this. The idea is that the ultimate act of heroic mourning, which is born from this incredibly profound love and subsequent loss, it doesn't just lead to survival or just finding that new normal.
Okay. It leads to?
It can lead to a profound, authentic self-transformation.
Self-transformation. How so?
It's like the journey itself, going through that intense crucible of grief, reveals a truer, maybe more resilient, more authentic version of your own soul.
So the suffering actually shapes you into something more.
Something different, certainly. Perhaps something stronger, more aware. It allows you potentially to live and love fully again, not by forgetting, but by embracing both the bittersweet reality of human life, the joy and the pain, and the enduring worth of love itself, even after loss.
Wow. That's a really profound thought to end on. That the deepest grief could actually lead to transformation, to relighting that spark.
It suggests the journey through is what matters, not just getting to the other side.
That's a powerful perspective to carry with you, that this path through such immense grief might lead to that kind of deep self-discovery and transformation. We really hope this deep dive has given you, our listener, some valuable insights into what is truly a unique form of grief and this idea of a heroic path toward healing and reconciliation.
It's a lot to think about.
Definitely. Keep reflecting on these ideas, mull them over and continue your own exploration of how love and even loss can profoundly shape who we become.